Hey everyone, welcome to the Get Your Life Together Girl podcast. I'm your host, Danielle Ban. As a cognitive behavioral therapist, life coach to women, and author, I've spent my life studying and learning from the stories that make us human. It's my passion and goal to help you shift your mindset and create a lifelong revolution to help you reach your greatest potential. For many women, confidence is a moving target. It's something they want, but they don't feel they actively have. It's tricky because confidence is built on many different elements in our lives, but overall comes down to just 4 fundamental barriers that each of us experiences at one time or another. To give you the proven steps to build unshakable confidence, I sat down with the queen of confidence building, Jacqui Letran. In the next hour, she hands over the roadblocks we experience, the grounded steps to change your lack patterns, and then she walks us through an exercise that has radically changed thousands of women's confidence levels in a way that can be done right now, today. If you struggle with feeling worthy, good enough, or going after your desires, this conversation is step 1 in changing that inner narrative. So let's shift our perspective and our confidence level. The Get Your Life Together Girl podcast starts right now. There's one lady that I know that can speak to confidence, that can teach confidence like no other. And I'm fortunate enough to call you my friend, Jacqui Letran. I wanted to have you on today because we need more confidence in our world, and you really do have the formula how to teach confidence. Give us a little bit about who you are and how you've come to this space.
Sure. Well, thank you so much for having me on today. I've been so looking forward to this. So I came into confidence, not really as a career or anything like that. I started out my career as a nurse practitioner, and I work in adolescent health, mainly reproductive health and mental health. And what I discovered with my patients were that, like they came in and they have, all of these concerns or whatever. And when it comes to mental health, what I was doing was prescribing medications. That's what we were trained to do as nurse practitioners. And I would see the same patients over and over again and would prescribe maybe a second medication or change medication or up the dosage. But I was seeing my patients year in, year out for the same thing. Yeah. And I got really, really discouraged. So I started looking for options to help my patients better. And when I first discovered holistic care, I was like, BS. I call total BS on this. There is no way, these little different techniques would work. But I got so curious. And so I kept learning. And the more I learned, the more I fell in love with it. And about, how many years ago now? 13, 14 years ago, I walked away from my medical practices and started a holistic healing practice. And as I'm seeing clients, I'm seeing like there is just this one pattern that exists no matter who it is I'm seeing. And it's really a lack of confidence. Like they come in and it might be weight loss. It might be fear of flying. It might be being stuck in an unhappy relationship or work performance issue. And it really comes down to confidence. And so the more that I started seeing that pattern, the more interested I got. Yeah. And I kept looking into it and kept learning more about it. And now I have this formula, and it's simpler than we all think, to really help people really step into themselves and be confident in who they are and confident in their ability.
It's interesting to me that I see it every day too, this sort of normal standard of what a lack of confidence looks like. And yet most people are not even aware that the lack of confidence is what's driving the situations or the emotions that they're feeling to begin with. Can you talk a little bit about what lack of confidence looks like first, and then how it really does show up in our life?
Sure. So of course, we know lack of confidence is the lack of belief in our abilities, right? So when we talk about confidence and self-esteem, you have to talk about both of them. Mm-hmm. And confidence is a belief in our abilities, and self-esteem is what we think or how we like ourselves.
Right.
So we might have good self-esteem. We might think we're like smart, brilliant people, but something could be nagging in the background that said, but I'm not as smart as the other person. Mm-hmm. I can't do that thing. I don't deserve that thing. And so it shows up that way. The coolest thing about seeing thousands of clients and seeing this pattern is the 4 beliefs that really pop up for me. But I want to take a step back and talk about those 4 beliefs because that's the foundation of my work. Right. And if you understand that, understanding confidence and self-esteem is a lot easier. So, through seeing, thousands and thousands of client sessions and clients, what I've discovered that, again, no matter why a person come in to see me, there are 4 beliefs that we all have. They pop up at different times. They might stay longer in another person, but we all have this. And it's a belief of I'm not enough. Mm-hmm. And that could be anything. I'm not pretty enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not old enough. I'm not talented enough. And second belief is I'm not worthy. Mm-hmm. Oftentimes, if you believe you're not good enough in something, you also believe that you don't deserve that other thing, right? Third belief is I'm not loved. And it can show up as I'm not loved or I'm not lovable. And the fourth belief is I'm not safe. And the I'm not safe could be someone will hurt my physical body, or it could be someone can hurt me if they know who I am. They can hurt me emotionally. And so as I'm going through the 4 beliefs, I see Danielle like nodding your head.
Yes. Yep. I see it every day. And it's right. You're completely correct. It is the foundation to everything. Those 4 beliefs do control our lives in such a big way. And you're right. They stay shorter in some people. They're long lasting in others, but identifying them is very difficult for a lot of people.
It is because, when I do consultation calls, I talk about the 4 beliefs, and there are some clients that immediately right off the bat, like, nope, I don't have any of those 4.
Right.
And, and that's okay, because when you first hear about it, when you first talk about it, it seems very surface. Mm-hmm. But when you start going a little bit deeper and give, like examples of how that shows up in a person's life, they're like, oh, check, all 4.
Got those. I've got those covered. Thank you so much.
Yes. And the cool thing is, people come in to see me and they seriously bring in a notebook or a notepad, and they have a list of problems. And it could be 10, it could be 50. I had one lady actually brought in like 5 pages, right? Front and back of all her problems. And she looked at me. I love her. She's one of my favorite clients. She looked at me and she's like, I'm going to be your best client. I am going to stay with you forever.
That's not why I'm here.
And for me, if you know me, that's a nightmare.
Right. You're like, no, actually, I just want to help you and give you skills. Thank you so much.
Yes. Like, I love you. We can transition into a different relationship, but I do not need to work with you forever. Right. And I looked at her and I'm like, would it be okay with you if I let you know that every one of those problems fall into one of 4 categories? Mm-hmm. And once we handle those 4 categories, without talking about each problem individually, they go away. Would that be okay with you? Right. And she looks at me like I'm just not so. Right? She's like, did you not see my list? And I'm like, would it be okay? And, she's very hesitant, but very curious. And she's like, yes. Mm-hmm. And as we work together, she's like, we didn't talk about those things and they're gone. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, yes, they are. And, one of the things is she start to like who she is again. She start believing in herself and her ability. She trusts her opinion. She trusts her decisions. And those things just start transforming for her. It was such a beautiful thing to see.
It's so interesting to me. That transformation is so beautiful when we walk people through these spaces and identify maybe the problem is just the diagnosis, right? But really what's going on is the baseline of what is actually happening within. Can you give us some examples? You talked about how confidence or lack thereof shows up, because again, the 4 basics, most people will go, nope, I'm good. I'm fine. Thanks.
Yeah. So right now in this space of my work, I work a lot with parents of teenagers and teens themselves. So I'll give you an example of one of the moms I'm working with. She is the most supportive mom. I mean, like, she would do anything and everything for her daughter, and her daughter would do anything and everything too to try to improve herself. But they hit a wall. They went to therapist after therapist. They read books, they journal, they did everything they were told to do. And they just hit this wall because the one thing that they haven't experienced before was working with somebody who actually worked on the root cause, like really deeply on the root cause, right? A lot of people, and they're great. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with them. There's different people for different phases in your life. Yeah. But a lot of people, what they do is they work on symptoms.
Yeah.
And yes, you can take care of a symptom. Yes, you can give them a tool to manage a symptom, but then it demonstrated in different ways. It will show up in a different way.
Right.
So when you go back to the root, then all of a sudden it's like you change your outlook, you change how you interact with yourself, with the world, and the people you care about. And the change is permanent. That's the best part, right?
Yeah.
And so this mom's like, I've been taking her everywhere. We did traditional counseling. We did, like, what are those getaways? She paid thousands upon thousands for these retreats. And she's like, and it works, but we're still here. And for her, really, because of her past experience prior to becoming a mother, that created a belief of something is wrong with me. I'm not a good enough mom. I'm not a good enough person. That is always in the background of her mind.
Right.
And as she takes her daughter to these things, she learned a new skill. But the skill doesn't overcome that noise, that background noise that says, no, you're going to fail because you're not a good enough mom. You don't know what you're doing. You're messing up your daughter's life. Those are her words. I mean, she told me those are things she experienced on a regular basis, right? And of course, because she doesn't believe in who she is and her skills, when her daughter comes to her and, she have these great talks and they're using these skills, she show up in a way that's not very confident. And what would that do to her daughter, right?
We identify a mirror back behavior all day long.
Exactly. And then, of course, now that they've been through, years of various trainings and therapy and whatnot, now they both believe that it's just not possible for them to overcome these issues, right? That there is something fundamentally wrong with mom and daughter because other people got better.
Right.
What's wrong with me? And that just reinforces those 4 beliefs, right? And here's the thing about the 4 beliefs that we haven't talked about. And that is these beliefs usually come from 2 main pathways. And the first pathway is significant emotional event. So when something happens to you as a person and you decide that was a significant event, even though nobody thinks so, it doesn't matter. It's all about you, right? When you experience a significant emotional event, your subconscious mind would create a belief system and a coping mechanism.
Right. Yep.
And those belief system will go back to one of the 4 or multiple of those 4. And the coping mechanism tends to be run and hide.
Right.
You're not good enough. You're not safe. Run and hide. Right. And so when you learn skills, and they're great, don't get me wrong. Again, do your meditation, do your breath work, do yoga, do whatever it is that help you to maintain that state, but also do the inner work, a little bit deeper inner work. Yeah. But when you are not doing the inner work, you're using a tool, but that again, that little tape pops up. Yep. Works for everybody but me, right? Because your mind is trained to look for evidence to prove that you are right.
And to keep you safe, right?
And to keep you safe. Those 2 big things, right?
Big things. Yes.
Yes. And if you have a belief that you're not good enough, your mind will look constantly in the environment for evidence that these things are not going to be safe for you, or, that you're not good enough to do these things. And that's going to focus all of your attention on those things, right? And every single time you win at something, a lot of us if we have a belief that we're not good enough or we don't deserve, if we do something really well, we automatically go to pure luck.
Right.
That was just luck. No, that was you being brilliant. You just have to step into it.
And so many women hold that belief about themselves, right? That we just sort of happen into things, or we got lucky or whatever. I know for me, I came from 2 very high performing parents, a stepmom that was very high performing. And for me, it was always that mentality of I have to do more. And it took me a long time to realize that I personally never celebrated my successes because there was always another thing to accomplish. That in and of itself will diminish your confidence.
1000%, right? And one of the things that I teach all of my clients is celebrate the teeny tiniest little win.
Yes.
You got out of bed today. Woohoo! Celebrate the heck out of it, right?
Right.
Most people, when they have a goal, it's a big goal and they want to achieve it yesterday.
Yes.
And we are also conditioned by society, by our family, by ourselves to beat ourselves up until we achieve that goal.
Right.
However, the moment you achieve that goal, or right prior to achieving that goal, there's another one and another one and another one. So you never really attain that level of what you know, gauge as your win or your perfection. And you're constantly beating yourself. Why am I not good enough? Why can't I do that? And for me, that was a huge challenge. Like you, Danielle, I have my mom was constantly about performance. It's like you put in 100% in everything that you do. And so I would have a to-do list every single day because I like my list. I still do. That's how I organize my brain. So I have my to-do list and maybe there's 20 items and I would tick off 14 of them. And at the end of the evening, I would still be upset with myself for not finishing, the 20. Never mind, I got 14 of them done. And those 14 are not 14 because every one of them have a little, another step to it, right? And sometimes I get one thing done, but it's a major thing that took all day. And of course, I'm beating myself for the stuff I didn't get done versus celebrating the heck out of what I did do right.
So, and that builds confidence when we do celebrate those tiny little victories. That's generally step one when I'm working with someone is let's evaluate your day. Are you really mindful about what's happening? You're talking about a lack of confidence, but that is in every single thing that you do.
Exactly. And step one you said is evaluating your day. And what I teach, and it's the same thing as what you said, but just using a different word, is the most important thing in my work is awareness. Until you make it a point to pay attention. Right. Until you really take inventory of what's really going on, you don't know.
Right.
Because going back to the subconscious mind, it always want to keep you safe, and safe also means feeling okay.
Right.
And so it will distort things so that you get to feel okay. Right. And so one of the exercises that I have my clients do is for 24 hours, carry a piece of paper and a pen or something with them and write down every single negative thought that crosses their mind.
Yep. Happens in my office too.
And people are like, okay, well, whatever, I'll play. And they come back and they were so disappointed with themselves because they have pages after pages after pages. And I'm like, celebrate the heck out of that.
Right.
They look at me like I am, not on the same planet. They're like, do you not see all the negativities that goes on in my mind? Why are we celebrating that? I'm like, because now you are aware.
Because you've created a signal in the brain to look for that thought that's coming through. It's not the subconscious tape that's talking anymore, but instead we're kind of rooting out that inner mean girl, that, inner critic that is, living up there and telling us how we should operate and show up.
Yep. And the moment that you become aware and you're disappointed with it or disgusted with it, guess what? Now you have a motivation to do something about it.
Yes. Big point there. The motivation to do something about it. A lot of people will see those lists and then become sort of frozen in it for just a moment, right? They don't allow themselves to actually see this as a victory, as you said, a celebration, but instead go, oh my gosh, there's something really fundamentally even deeper wrong with me than I thought. And now I'm afraid, how will this ever transform into something else? I know what I say. I'd love to hear what you say.
Again, I just focus on wins. One of the things that I do is really shifting how you see an event, right? Because it's all about, everything that we do is all about perspective.
Right.
Because you and I can be at the exact same movie, watching the same exact everything in the same theater. And one of us can come out and say, that was the worst movie ever. And the other one of us would be like, oh my gosh, that was so cool.
Yeah.
And it's really about our perspective, right? And so one of the things, again, I really help people do is, how can you see this differently? It's such a simple question that is incredibly powerful. I love questions.
Yes.
Because when you ask good questions, you get really good answers.
That's right.
Right. And I truly believe that we all have our own answers already. It might be buried a little bit under those 4 beliefs and other things, but we know what we want. We know what we need to do to succeed. We just might not go for it yet because of that lack of confidence and lack of clarity, because we don't have awareness, but we know what we want and what we need to do. And so just asking that simple question of, how can you see this differently? Start to shift the mind into looking for something different, because we all go to that knee-jerk reaction, right? And that question allow us to pause for a moment and to go, okay, there is something else. And there is always another way to interpret every single situation.
Oh, yes. It makes me think of, as we're talking about this, a question that someone recently asked me, and they said, do you feel like people show up as their best selves? And I said, I do feel that people do try to show up as their best selves, but fundamentally, we know when we're not showing up as our best selves. We know when we are not confident, when we're not hitting that, 4 pillar of confidence. And yet we may not do everything we need to move ourselves into that space. And so therefore we try.
And in that sentence, there's something, like you said, fundamentally wrong with it. It's the word try.
Right.
I mean, because if you're listening to this conversation right now, I want you to envision in your mind that you are trying to do something. What does that look like? And what does that feel like in your body, right? Chances are that just kind of like, okay, I did something. I gave it some effort and I'm okay with it. Now, if you were to say, I'm committed to,
yes.
I'm determined to, I'm excited to, how does that feel differently in your body, right? How does the image pop up in your mind differently? So the words that we use is so incredibly important to our experiences. And so one of the things that you can do right now just to shift your experience is get rid of that try. I like Yoda with that. Either you do or don't. There's no try.
There's no try.
I won't do the Yoda voice because I don't want to do voices.
Oh, come on, Jacqui.
No. but yes, just do it, and a lot of people don't do it again because lack of confidence, lack of self-esteem. They are afraid that they will fail. But what if you start looking at the result as just that, a result?
Yeah.
What if you don't give it a label of, this is a win, this is a failure? Or if you don't like no label, what about this is just, another learning opportunity?
I love that. I love that. Because, everything in our lives are teachers. Every experience, every person, everything is a teacher. We put the emotion, I always say we're meaning-making machines, right? The perception, right? That we're the ones that say good, bad, indifferent, whatever. But everything is a lesson. So can we use it to our benefit? I love that. I love that label for it.
Yes. Yeah, I love that. How can we use this to our benefit? What is the lesson here? And how can I use this to improve my life? And if you're willing to look at that, even the most traumatic event, there is a beautiful life lesson that will push you into a better version of you, right?
Yeah. Yes.
So be willing to look for the lesson and let go of the pain because, life is going to throw a bunch of stuff at you all the time. And you will continually be hurt or disappointed and all of those negative words. Or you can choose them to be lessons and come out of it ahead.
Right. So we're doing the hard work. We're bringing in the awareness. We know that we have our laundry list of situations that we feel like we're not confident. We're not owning our lives and showing up. Where do we go next?
Now, are we talking about working with a professional or we're talking about doing the inner work at home because it's completely different, right?
I know. A lot of people, though, just from the state of the world now are in a space where traditional therapy or working with a coach is just not within their reach. And so, of course, within this podcast, giving the lessons and tools that we can use both on our own and, of course, in an office setting. We never want anyone to try to do therapy on their own, right? You need a guided professional to help you. But we can give you tools that will help you kind of move into a better place so that maybe you permit yourself to get into a space where you are working with someone who can guide you.
Yes, love that. The reason I asked that question really is more about wanting listeners to know that when you work with somebody who is trained to work with a subconscious mind, your result is hyperspeed.
Yes,
right.
Definitely.
And when you do the inner work yourself, know that you will make progress, celebrate those progress, but also know that it will take more time.
Right.
And one of the biggest reasons is, again, your subconscious mind.
Yes.
Right. Danielle mentioned earlier, the subconscious mind wants to keep you safe, and it will do anything and everything it can to keep you safe. However, safe doesn't really mean safe to the subconscious mind. Safe just means stay exactly the way you are.
Right. Yeah. Pattern.
So yes, because,
Yes.
even though we don't like this, we know how to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing that we could become, we don't have experience. We don't know what that looked like. That is scary and dangerous to the subconscious mind.
Right.
So as you are doing the inner work, your subconscious mind will trick you.
Mm-hmm.
It will like, again, that coping mechanism I mentioned earlier, it will start popping up as you doing the inner work, and it will say things. It will remind you of times you fail,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it reminds you of, areas that you don't have expertise in or your non-strengths, and it will highlight that for you. And of course, most of us, when we start doubting ourselves, when we start having fearful thoughts of all these energy and money invested and we're not going to get the results, we stop.
Right.
And we go back to our old pattern, and the subconscious mind says, "Yay!
Thank you."
Jacqui and Danielle are safe. They still have anxiety, but they're safe." But yes, going back to steps, again, the first step is awareness. You want to be able to be at that space of creating awareness.
Mm-hmm.
And the second thing to do is, again, really celebrating every single tiny little steps. And along with that is, when you set goals, make little baby goals.
Mm-hmm. That's
again,
huge.
it's so big, right?
Yeah.
Because again, if we want something, we want it yesterday.
Right.
And so I want you to think about, climbing a mountain. And if you are on the bottom and you look up the mountain and you go, okay, I'm going to get up there. Most of us will go, no, let's go for ice cream. Right?
Forget this. We're good.
Yes. But if you look up the mountain, you're like, okay, I'm going to go to that third tree.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right? And you enjoy your walk to that third tree, and you sit and you relax and you celebrate the fact that you got to the third tree. And then you look up and you're like, oh, that rock over there looks kind of cool. That's my next goal.
Right.
And then you keep on doing those little baby steps. And then you look back down the mountains and holy cow, you're halfway up the mountain.
Yeah.
And you have fun.
Yeah.
Or if you didn't have fun, at least it felt okay. Right. And again, so when you have a goal, start making, baby goals. Figure out what it is that you really want, and then start backing it down to, what would I be happy enough with today? What is the one thing I can do today that will move me up that mountain, right? By 10 steps, by 20 steps, by a mile, whatever it is that you want to do, but make it a baby step and celebrate the heck out of it.
Yeah, that's a big one. I always say, can you take your goal as a global thing and then get all of the pieces lined up? But then I want you to have little hash marks as to how you're going to make that a global event for yourself, right?
Yes.
And it has to be in those little small hash marks, because that's where we live, right? We live in those moments. We don't live in the global event. We're going to get to the end and then the goal is done. But it's all of those pieces that led up to that are actually the movement of the goal. And that's really where confidence is built.
Exactly. Because every time you have a goal and you crush that goal and you crush it with ease, guess what you're doing to your subconscious mind? You're reassuring your subconscious mind that any goal you set, you can accomplish.
Right.
Right. And that builds a subconscious confidence and the conscious confidence. So be kind to yourself and be willing to do that.
A lot of people don't understand that everything that we do and take in goes into the mind and it's stored in some way, right?
Yes.
And so we're creating patterns when we're telling ourselves, this is what we want, this is what we don't want, this is how I feel about myself, this is how I feel about that. We're telling the brain, every time you come up against something like this is what you're going to use as the framework for that item. And
yes.
So if you can just give yourself a moment to say, I'm going to celebrate this because I need to give my brain a framework of celebration instead of negativity, because I can do these things. It wouldn't be on your heart or in your mind if it wasn't for you.
Yes. Yes, I completely agree. And now the next thing is it sounds really simple, and it's so important. We don't do this enough. And that is stop comparing ourselves to others, right?
Right.
Along with, I want my goals accomplished yesterday, but she did that. but
Right.
he has that. Why can't I? And
Yeah.
what you don't see is all the work that they put into it. All you see is their
Right.
result, and you go, oh my gosh, they have it. You don't know it took them 10 years. You don't know what the internal struggle is still currently as they achieve the goal
Yes.
that you thought you want,
Mm-hmm.
right? And of course, you don't also know how many people's looking at you and go, I wish I had that she has.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And you're also not really thinking about the fact that even if you reach the same result, it's not going to be the same anyway, because you are going to put your perspective on it.
Exactly, exactly. So the only comparison that I encourage people to do if they want to compare is how are you today versus yesterday, versus a
Mhm.
week ago, versus a month ago, right? And when you start looking at your younger version and
Mhm.
comparing your younger version to the version you are today, you'll see a cause for celebration.
Yeah. Yeah. Growth is really interesting, at least in my perspective, where, we feel like we're like trudging up the mountain as you're talking about, but then we kind of get to the top and we're like, oh my gosh, wow, I have grown so much has changed. And that can be in 2 days worth of time, or it could be
Yes.
in 4 years. It just, there's no standard for it.
Yes. And that go back to being kind to yourself is go at
Right.
your own pace and celebrate the heck out of you because you are amazing.
Hmm. Definitely. So we have moved through all of these steps and we're not comparing, which is, a detriment to anyone and everyone when we compare. What are we doing next to build our confidence?
So I love affirmations. And a lot
Me
of
too.
people don't like affirmations. My clients, often will say things to me like, I feel really stupid saying the affirmations, or
Right.
I don't want to lie to myself. And a really common one is I've been doing affirmations and they don't work.
Right.
The way that most people teach affirmations, they don't work. I will
Mhm.
tell you that right now.
Yeah.
And the tweak to it is so incredibly minor, but unless you know that tweak needs to be made, you're going to be stuck doing affirmation in a way that actually is harmful to
Mm.
you. And so when I first explained that to my clients, they look at me like, wait, what? I thought affirmation was just saying I'm beautiful, and it is for step one,
Right.
but doing step one alone oftentimes will not get you the results you're looking for.
Right.
So when you're doing affirmation, the first thing you want to do is use an I am statement, because I am really is a declaration to the universe, that this is who you are.
Right.
And you do affirmation all day long, whether you know it or not, you are, because it could be, I'm so scared. Guess
Sure.
what that was?
That's an
I can't
affirmation.
do that. That's an
Mhm.
affirmation,
Right.
right? That's one that actually harm you. And now you're doing these positive affirmations. So you're like, let's say you think you are not very smart and you decided to work on, I am smart.
Mhm.
And you say the affirmation because your coach told you, or you read a book or whatever, and you say, I am smart. And you feel this crushing pressure in your chest, or your shoulder get heavy, or somewhere in your body, your physical body, there is
Mhm.
some sort of sign of misalignment.
Right. Resistance.
Yes, resistant. It will always, always, always show up in your body. So when you
Yes.
do an affirmation work, pay attention to your physical body, right? But if you don't know the second step, you're just going to say, I'm smart. And you feel that pressure even more. And
Mhm.
every day you say that, you feel worse about yourself. And of course, you give up because, it doesn't work. And now you're feeling worse off than you were before. So when you do an affirmation, again, pay attention to your physical body.
Mhm.
And if you notice any changes, any heaviness, any tightness, any fluttery sensation, anything that tells you something is not right, you know that you're not aligned with that particular affirmation.
Right.
And if you leave it the way it is, what you're actually doing is affirming the emotions attached to the words,
I'm
right?
so glad that you are moving through this. This is so important. This is so huge because what we tell ourselves is what we focus on and it is what grows in our mindset. Please continue.
Yes. But what we tell ourselves is the first part, but how we
Mhm.
feel about what we tell ourselves is actually the most powerful thing, right?
Absolutely.
And I'll give you an example and then I'll go back to affirmation. So Danielle, you and I, let's say we're best friends and you're at the grocery store and you have your back to me, right?
Yeah.
And let's say we call each other biatch for fun all the time. And you're just standing in line. I came up and I shove you and I say, move, biatch. You know,
Right.
what is your first instinct before you see that as me?
It's fight or flight.
Right? You got gloves on, right?
Right.
Or you're shrinking because you're like, oh my gosh, you know, someone's going to hurt me because I'm not safe.
Right.
But then you turn around and you see me. How would that be?
But then your emotions lock in that I'm safe, I'm good, everything's fine. What are you doing? Yeah.
Right. And you might shove me right back and call me a biatch, or we just might start laughing and having a great conversation and catch up. Right.
Right.
The words and the actions are exactly the same.
Exactly.
Is the emotion that, you know, the meaning machine, you call it.
Yes.
The meaning that we put behind that becomes our experience, right? Not the actual words. And that's what's problematic with affirmations.
Right.
People are taught to say the words and keep saying and keep working at it. And you know, no, pay attention to your body.
Right.
So when you notice that physical sensation in your body that's saying, this is not true. If you stop there, you are affirming the emotion, which is, if you're saying I'm smart, it's probably I'm dumb or something like that, right?
Right.
So be willing to be kind to yourself and step back a little bit and bring that affirmation down one step. And that is, I'm willing to be smart. How does that feel immediately?
Yeah, that feels so much better. Definitely.
Yes.
Yeah.
No matter what it is you're working on, you are willing, right? You're not tricking yourself. You're not saying something that misaligned with you. You're willing to be. Right. You might not feel it yet, but you are willing to be. And if you're saying, I'm willing to be smart, and you still feel like that, you know, uncomfortable sensation, back it down one more step. I'm willing to know it's possible that I am smart. Okay, your mind's like, I'm willing to know something is possible, because your mind is filled with endless possibilities, right?
Right.
So be willing to go to those steps if necessary. However, always starts with I am. Start with I am. And if your body challenge it, then soften it to I'm willing. And then soften it to I'm willing to know it is possible if you need to. Now, the one thing I didn't mention before those softening is breath. That is super important, right?
Yes. You got to dysregulate that nervous system.
Yes. So when you're noticing that your body is giving you that sensation, that's saying, no, we're not aligned. If you really pay attention, you'll probably notice tightness in your body and your breath has changed. You might be breathing more shallow, or you're holding your breath, right? So start with taking a couple big deep breaths, just a few, 2, 3, 4, whatever. But take in really slow, deep breaths, hold it, and then release it. I usually teach my clients to take a deep breath in for a count of 4, hold it for a count of 4, and release it for a count of 4. And do that 2 to 3 times, and then go into the I'm willing.
We have to clear our minds. You said a couple really beautiful things there. And I love the taking the affirmation down a notch. I love that because, you know, as I teach too, we cannot affirm what we do not believe. And if we don't believe it, then we are locking that in. You use the word yet. And I think that is such a powerful word. I love the word yet. And I think that it can be used in our affirmations.
100%. In one of my books, I think my 3rd book on Jumpstart Your Confidence, there's a chapter on the power of words. And within that chapter, there's a paragraph on the power of yet. Yet is so key, right? Because when you say, I can't dance, you just shut that door. I just can't.
Right.
But when you say, I can't dance yet, you're leaving a space. You're leaving that door open for possibilities. So that's, you know, in your affirmation work, or it just in your day-to-day life, be willing to remove the try and add in the yet.
Exactly. We effort towards everything, right? And then we become exhausted. And then we sort of move into that autopilot of our lives. And then we think, why are we not happy? Why is nothing working out for me? And a lot of it has to do with the fact that we're just not engaging in our lives the way that we know. I don't like the word should. In fact, I hate the word should, but I'm going to put air quotes around it. Should.
I'm going to remove it because I don't like that word.
I don't either. I hate that word.
That's in my book too. Stop shitting yourself, right?
Yeah. I hate it.
It's, give yourself permission for a different
Yeah.
experience.
Yes, definitely.
Right. And it's not, I should do this. It's I choose to.
Yes.
How does that feel to choose?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I have to get up because I should go to the gym. I
Mm-hmm.
choose to get up and I choose to go to the gym.
Right.
Which one will motivate you?
Do you feel, I feel that this is something I see is when women gain confidence, that motivation immediately steps into the path as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. When you feel good about yourself and you know who you are and you feel good about your abilities, all of a sudden those roadblocks that you see,
Mm-hmm.
they're not scary. They're still there. They're not going to go away, my friends.
Yeah.
But what you see is this giant roadblock and you're like, okay, how can I go over that or under it or to the left of it? Well, how can I overcome this roadblock versus roadblock, screech, stop, turn, go back, right? So when we start feeling good about ourselves, we start giving ourselves permission to have a different experience. And every time you give yourself permission to have a different experience, you get a different experience. Which then,
the truth? Yeah.
Yes, because again, your mind will always look for evidence to prove that you're right, to give you the same exact thing that you've been experiencing. So when you give yourself permission to have a new experience, your mind is looking and it's going to find something else. Because here's a really cool thing about the mind. At any given time, your subconscious mind, the knee-jerk reaction part of you, could process 100% of every single thing that happens inside your body and around your immediate environment.
Mm-hmm.
But consciously, you are only aware of 1%.
Yeah. Yeah. I call it the spotlight.
Yes, there are 99% other ways for you to see this situation, 99% different ways to experience this, right? And so when you say, how can I see this differently? Or I'm giving myself permission to have a new experience, your mind go, okay, we're zoning on this one now. Let's shift a little bit. You don't like that? How can I see this differently? Let your mind shift again. You like it? Oh yeah, let's go for that one.
Right. It's so important too, is that we have the power to not only create our confidence, but create our environment and our experience just with that little shift. So many of us have not been taught the fact that we are in control of our experiences. We are in control of our thoughts. We use this, well, I had trauma or I have this really terrible experience that's going on right now as the excuse to not do the daily work.
Exactly. And it's not your fault. I want you to know it's not your fault. Your subconscious mind is highlighting that for you, spotlighting, as you call it.
Yes.
Because it wants you to stay, quote unquote, safe, which means don't change.
Right.
So the problem is consciously, logically, you're like, I don't want this anymore. This hurt too much, or this is just so, it's been holding me back for so long. I know I want something different for myself. I know I deserve something different. And then the subconscious mind kicks in, but it's not going to work for you.
Right.
You're not as smart as other people. You don't deserve that thing. Nobody likes you. You're going to try that and everybody's going to laugh at you. And all of a sudden, what do? Go back to our tiny little boxes, right? Mm-hmm. So I think, you and I touched on it just briefly today. I think really the key to confidence is being kind to ourselves. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we are horrendous to ourselves. And that's what it is, really, is we are terrible to ourselves. When we make a mistake, we beat ourselves up over and over and over again. And then we wonder why it's so hard for us to accomplish anything. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then somebody we care about mess up even bigger than we did. And we're like, oh, it's okay.
Right.
You just made a little mistake. I love you. You're amazing. So if we can turn that support inward, and start treating ourselves as if we love ourselves, we should.
Right.
I'm committed to. I'm gonna do this shit.
We're committed to love.
Yes. Seriously, when you are committed to showing yourself the same level of love and kindness, as you do to other people, strangers included,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
You're going to shift. Your confidence will grow. Your self-esteem will grow. It is in our self-talk that we really tear ourselves down big time.
Yes, it is. Kindness is such a big thing that we offer to everyone else, and then we forget to give to ourselves.
Yes.
One question that comes up for me a lot in my sessions is, do I have to be brave in order to be confident?
Absolutely not. I think those
Yeah,
are two very
absolutely.
different things,
I
right?
agree with you 100%.
Yes. But the thing is, about bravery. A lot of people define bravery and courage. Just again, how do we judge ourselves? A lot of people, when they think about courage and bravery, they think about these big, giant things,
Mhm.
right? Well, I didn't run into any, burning a building and rescue people or, whatever else. I can't skydive, right?
Right,
They look at those events as the courageous events. But you know what? If you have depression, getting out of bed is courageous.
right. And just
If
taking the step to get out is the confidence
Yes,
builder. Right.
yes, yes. And so the thing is, you are so much more courageous than you know. You are much more braver than you know. It's again, is what we define, how we defined it, right? And the
Yeah.
words that we use that tear ourselves down. But think about every single thing that you went through that you are saying, that is why I'm this way. Guess
Mhm.
what? You survived those things
Yes.
and you're still getting up every day and you're still facing life. You might not face life exactly the way you want to yet, but you're doing it. That takes so much courage. So
Mhm.
celebrate the fact that even though you have these things that, are blocking your ability to see your true self, you're still doing the thing you need to do to move on from one moment to another.
Mhm.
And that's bravery.
Yeah, I agree with you. It made me think about the fact that a lot of women will come in and say, I have zero confidence at all. And going back to getting out of bed if you have depression or, doing the very small acts like you talked about, these are confidence pieces that we're not even recognizing in ourselves every single day. I think that we take many actions of confidence throughout just living a standard day.
Yes, yes. And with my clients, one of the things that I love saying, because it demonstrates the point so beautifully. Before I go into that, I'm going to go back to what you just said, which is we
Mhm.
do things that demonstrate confidence constantly,
Right,
but we don't recognize that, right? Because again, the belief we have is I'm not confident.
right.
And so what your subconscious mind would do is focus your attention on everything that proves that point. And anytime you do something that demonstrates confidence, your subconscious mind kind of glaze over it completely. So you never fully get to register that. And other people might look at you and go, oh my gosh, she's the most confident person I know.
Right.
And you're beating yourself up.
Can you identify beyond the small steps that we were talking about with the awareness, affirmations, the inner critic conversations that we're having, writing down the negative conversations that we're having? Is there something that we can put into our daily practice beyond those things that begin to change that loop of the subconscious that help us really know that confidence is within everyone?
Yes. I'm just going to go back and highlight everything we talked about because that is foundation, right?
Mhm.
And it is, again, getting clear on where you are right now, getting clear on where you want to go, and
Mhm.
creating those little steps in between, the little hash mark that you mentioned, and
Right.
then doing it and celebrating it. That is incredibly key. Another tool that I teach all of my clients has to do with affirmation, and it's worked a little bit different, and I call it a masterpiece.
Mm.
What I have my clients do is create the masterpiece version of their life. And this is
Mhm.
a fluid thing. It's not like this is it, you
Right.
make it for what is important to you today. And if tomorrow something changes and something else is more important, change your masterpiece. So the masterpiece is just a string of affirmations, right? And so what I usually have my clients do is just imagine like they've been the way that they've been dreaming of being for the past 3 months. Life is flowing, everything is going, beautifully, and they are in that space of joy. What does that look like? Create that day,
Mm.
right? When you are
Yeah.
creating the masterpiece, two things to keep in mind. The first thing is everything you write down in your masterpiece Write it in the present tense. Not someday I will be confident.
Right.
Not I'm not confident yet. It's I am confident. Whether you feel that or not, start with I am. I am confident. I am whatever it is that you're looking to create. So stay with fully present tense, right? Second thing is make sure everything you write down is the true thing you want, not the thing you no longer want.
Yes. No lack mentality.
Yes. And that's confusing for a lot of people because if you have been depressed for the past year and then you have a masterpiece or an affirmation that is, I'm not depressed, that sounds kind of cool, kind of good. Going from I am depressed to I'm not depressed is kind of, it changes.
Yeah.
However, the focus is still on the depression.
Right.
Ask yourself, when I'm no longer depressed, what is it that I'm experiencing? Am I experiencing joy? Am I just in a state of relaxation? Am I at peace? What is it that you truly want, and use that for your affirmation? And then once you have your affirmation, go back, take away all the shoulda, coulda, woulda, take away all the not, the no longer, the don't, and make sure every single sentence on its own is focused on the thing that you're creating rather than the thing you're trying to avoid. And it starts out with something like, okay, so now I've been living this way for the past 3 months. How do I feel? Right. And it's I am. Start with I am joyful, I am confident, and I'm full of life, whatever it is that's important to you. And then carry that throughout the day. I wake up every single morning feeling excited for my day. My mind is relaxed and focused on whatever it is that you focus on. And just keep on creating this beautiful masterpiece of the you that you're working towards, right? And once you have the masterpiece, what you want to do is you want to record that masterpiece. You want to listen to this. So when you're doing the recording, you want to record yourself as if you're the best actor or actresses in the history of movie making. You want to bring all your energy to it. You want to, make your voice sound exciting, right? Because if you went to a movie and I'm the actress and I'm like, you know what, I had the greatest day today. You are going to throw tomatoes at me or something, right?
Right.
But I had the greatest day today. I'm pulling you in. You're like, wait, what's going on with Jacqui, right? So be the best actor in history and just bring in that excitement and pause in between every single one of your affirmations. Pause for about 5 seconds. And when you're recording this, it's going to feel like it's forever. Pause. It is so important because when you fully record it and you listen back to it, when you hear an affirmation and then you have that nice pause, during the pause, you can visualize that affirmation. What does that look like to you? What does it feel like to you? Who are you with? What are you doing? What are your evidence of being that affirmation, right? And so we rush through this because it feels uncomfortable at first, but be good to yourself. Give yourself at least a 5-second pause in between every single sentence. And you'll be surprised by the time you're done with the affirmation, you have like a minute. It's super short.
Yeah.
It's super short, right? So, and then listen to it at a minimum twice a day. First thing when you first get up, and last thing at night. And the reason you want to do it first thing in the morning and last thing at night is this. When we are tired, our brainwave level is in that pre-hypnotic state. And whatever enters our mind goes into the subconscious mind a lot easier. We don't have that resistance just yet, right? So when you first wake up, pop in your earphone, just lay in bed, relax, listen to your masterpiece and live it. That's the key. Some of my clients will come in and says, I've been listening to this and it's not really, I don't feel it. Well, your job was not to listen to it and try to make it, make some feeling of it. Your job is to be an actor and make that statement come alive. Right. And another really good reason for first thing in the morning and last thing at night is most of us, we wake up before we get out of bed, we think about all the things we have to do. And then we go into this state of anxiety or dread or something else. And we're already starting our day off on the wrong foot. But this time you're going to just stay and give yourself that extra minute or two in bed of Life is beautiful. I am ecstatic about today. My mind is clear and I'm confident in myself. I'm ready to tackle anything, right? All of a sudden you get out of bed and you're like, all right, let's go.
I
And
love it.
then, yes. And then at night, same thing. Most of us, we lay in bed and we beat ourselves up.
Mm-hmm.
And we replay scenarios where we deem ourselves failures, and we replay painful events, and we beat ourselves up for the thing we should have, could have done better.
Mm-hmm.
And then we go to bed in that negative state of mind, and we wake up in that negative state of mind, and the whole thing repeat, right? So instead, break the cycle. When you go to bed, restart the whole thing again. Oh, life is amazing, and I'm amazing. Right? And allow your mind that space of rest and positivity so that you can go into your sleep in a much better state. Your sleep will be better. You wake up again in that much more rejuvenated state because you're resetting yourself constantly. You're resetting yourself in the morning. You're resetting yourself at night. And my homework to my clients is twice a day. However, if you're looking to create this results quicker and you have time to do it 20 times a day, and we all do.
We do. Totally do.
Do it. Yes, do it. Because literally, it will take a minute or two, right? So you gave yourself permission to have a different experience. You're rewiring your mind to look for the positives of yourself and in your day. And then you have that experience because, again, your mind is programmed to look for whatever it is that you are thinking and feeling, right? And so if you're telling your mind now positive things, your mind is doing that. And here's the kicker, because a lot of people will still, they're resistant, they're hesitant to do that, right? Guess what? You're doing it all day long.
Yeah, you're doing it anyway.
You just have a negative, unhelpful, or even hurtful masterpiece that you're doing right now. And you can choose to continue letting that unhelpful, hurtful masterpiece go, or you can choose to refocus your energy on something that's going to bring you what you want.
Jacqui, I always learn from you. Always. I love the idea of creating your masterpiece in that way. It's a totally different exercise than I've ever worked with someone or personally have done. I love this idea, ladies. I hope that you will build your masterpiece too. What a brilliant way to fast track your confidence and really get into a space where you're really taking ownership of your life. What would you say to someone who says, that's great? All those things are great. Wonderful. I still feel like there's so much between me and my confidence.
And it's true. If you start in a space of being, your confidence level is incredibly low, everything that we talked about sounds amazing.
Right.
Right. It's the action.
Yes.
Right. And allow yourself to be committed, even if it's committed for 2 days, even if it's committed for 1 week. You don't have to say, I'm going to commit to doing this every single day for the rest of my life. Right. No, commit to 1 day and just see how that 1 day is different because you are taking action on your behalf. And then all of a sudden you're like, okay, that wasn't bad. Maybe I'll commit to 2 days. Right. And then after yet, I'm not confident yet. And this feels really unattainable being this level of confidence. But you know what? I'm willing to get there. How does that change when you just change the languaging just a little bit, right? It is so incredibly important.
We live in a world of everything that we're trying to avoid, right? That's our society is built on avoidance. But in order to have confidence, to live our best life, to really elevate ourselves and have beautiful relationships, both with ourselves and outward, we have to focus on what is working for us.
Yes. And celebrate the heck out of it.
And celebrate the heck out of it.
One of the things that I hear often is, I don't want to be conceited, right? A lot of people mistaken confidence to being egotistical or arrogant. Confidence isn't that. When you have true confidence and you like who you are, the way you interact with people is so much kinder.
Right.
Right. So know that you can create this level of self-confidence and still be that genuine, beautiful, kind soul that you are. So that's one of, it's such a resistance for people. They're so afraid of that.
Right.
The other thing that my clients tell me all the time that they are afraid about confidence is expectations of others.
Of course.
Right.
Right.
And as if I am this way or I do this, what if people expect more of me? And the answer I always have is, what do you expect of yourself? What do you want to do? What do you give yourself permission to do? Because no matter who you are, there will always be somebody that will expect something that is unrealistic or that you don't have to do, right? It's going back to you. What is your truth? What feels good for you? And do that. And no matter what it is that other people expect, if it doesn't align with who you are, you don't have to do it.
Yeah, that's so true. We have to take the people pleasing out if we want to truly be authentic in the way that we show up. And that is the key word that's missing there when we're talking about, well, this will be egotistical or people will think I'm conceited. Is if you're being your authentic self, that ego is not driving the train.
No.
Yeah.
And no matter who you are, no matter if you're the kindest, most loving person, there will be somebody that will look at you and think the worst of you.
Mm-hmm.
So rather than trying to please other people, please you. Be your genuine self, because again, your genuine self is so much more beautiful than you give yourself credit for.
Mm-hmm. We can't please everyone. We're never going to be liked by every single person. And why would we want to be, right? Because I mean, we bring people into our world because they have, different value, different excitement levels, all different things for us to really learn from and enjoy. We don't want to all be the same. We don't want to have to, be this cookie cutter. So it's okay.
No.
It's okay. It's totally okay.
Yes. And you know what? When you're genuinely yourself, you're going to attract the people that's going to enrich your life because they are on the same vibration as you.
Right. So important. We could go on for hours and hours, my friend. I would love to have you back on to talk more and deeper on another episode if you would be so kind to do so.
I would love to. This is something I'm so incredibly passionate about, as you can tell.
I know you are. I love it. Okay, so I end the podcast the same way, and it is 3 things. 3 things that you are grateful for. 3 things that you wish everyone would do and interact with in their lives. 3 things. It doesn't matter. You choose. What are Jacqui's 3 things?
Well, 3 things I'm grateful for. First thing is my life. I have an incredible life. My husband is amazing. We built this really the life that we want together. So I'm super, super grateful for that. I am incredibly grateful that we are in the state of learning because, even with everything that's going on in the world, so many more of us are so open to learning and to transforming ourselves and transforming the world. And I'm incredibly grateful for this. And the third thing I'm grateful for is going to sound really crazy at first. I'm grateful for gratitude. It is just a lot of people think it's kind of weird, but you know what? I don't spend a lot of time per se, but every single day I give gratitude.
Mm-hmm.
And I think gratitude is something else that will help you build your confidence because what you focus on grow.
Mm-hmm.
If we focus on our lack of confidence, that will grow. So let's say you did something that, like, oh, wow, that's, showing a little bit of confidence. Just close your eyes for a second and give thanks for that. Thank for that opportunity to change for that, little experience. So throughout your day, give thanks for anything and everything, and that's going to multiply big time.
I love your 3 things. Of course, you would be grateful for gratitude because that's who you are at the soul level of you. It's why I love you so much. Thank you for spending your time with us and giving us a glimpse into how we can build confidence and that all of us already have it. We just need to own it.
Yes. You just need to own it.
I absolutely love the masterpiece exercise Jacqui gifted us today. Remember, no matter what has happened or the way you feel right now, you do have the power to shift your experiences into pieces that work for you and not against you. Remember, confidence is a daily, active choice. If you would like to learn more about Jacqui or her fantastic books on confidence, you can follow her on Instagram at Jacqui Letran or visit shop.JacquiLetran.com. Visit our show notes for those links. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. Be sure to tune in each Tuesday and Thursday for new episodes of the Get Your Life Together Girl podcast. If you're looking for daily inspiration, please join the growing community at Get Your Life Together Girl on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok, or visit GetYourLifeTogetherGirl.com. While you're there, please check out the new Get Your Life Together Girl Women's Circle. This is home to the step-by-step tools we talk about on the podcast and so much more. You'll find meditations, journaling prompts, affirmations, downloadable practices, monthly live conversations where you can ask questions face-to-face, a private Facebook group, merchandise, and so much more. I hope you'll join us. It's only $9 a month. Thank you for listening and being a valuable part of this community. Until next time, be kind to yourself and others.